All right, guys, today we're going to be talking about the 12.1 changes for Death Knight. And I'm excited to be back. It's been a while. I haven't posted anything in a little bit, but it's okay. Dad is back with the milk and cigarettes. We are going to be talking about all of the things that they are changing so far for Death Knight. We're going to take a look at the tier set. We're going to take a look at the tier set appearances, and I'm going to show you some of the new visuals in the game. Now, if you guys don't have time for a full-length video and you just kind of want the quick TLDR, Blood is getting some nice buffs. All tanks really are getting some buffs, so it doesn't stand out, but it's still great. We love to see tank buffs. Not much change for Frost, and Unholy is mostly getting sort of a damage redistribution, taking some damage out of cooldowns, buffing your damage overall and your sustain, as well as a cool new summon. And we're going to get into that. A lot of quality of life for Unholy, but that is a TLDR. Now, if you guys want to stay for the rest of the video, I'm going to be going over it in detail. So first things first, we have the Blood changes. So for Blood, we have a buff to Permafrost. We have increased Leech, Relish and Blood healing increased by 25%. This is fantastic. Rapid Decomposition increases Blood Plague healing by 85%, was 50%. This is great. We have some Sustain healing buff. Sanguinary Burst heals you for 18% of damage dealt, was 15%. This is great. And Umbilicus Eternus absorbs damage equal to 6 times damage dealt by Blood Plague, was 5. So all of the tanks have gotten buffs. A lot of these that we're seeing here for Blood are sort of reversions of the changes that were made going into the War Within. You know, in Dragonflight, tanks were amazing. I mean, the most fun that I've had playing tank was in Dragonflight because the tanks were super overpowered. They were really, really strong. You felt immortal. There wasn't as much stress because you were like, okay, I'm not gonna die, so I'm not gonna wipe the group. I feel less nervous, less anxious going into a dungeon and tanking it for the first time. You would never get into an argument with your healer because your healer didn't really have to touch you or your health or anything like that. You were mostly pulling for the DPS. You were mostly pulling not for your own constraints, but for the DPS and how many kicks you had and how well your DPS could live. So it was my favorite, all-time favorite version of tanks. They've sort of gotten rid of that. Going into the War Within, there were some changes made to Blood, as well as all the other tanks. And so notably, a lot of this stuff was changed. And the other major change to Blood going into the War Within was that Death Strike would only heal based on a damage event once. So in Dragonflight, you could go and you could Death Strike somebody when someone, you know, hit you, and you would heal. And then you could press Death Strike a second time and you would heal again. Now, how this has changed going into the War Within is Death Strike was made so that you can only heal off of that damage one time, that damage instance once. So these are good changes to Blood. I think that until we see anything like that touched again, Blood is not going to feel immortal. It's not going to feel like it was in Dragonflight. But it is great to see these changes. I really, as from a design philosophy perspective, I really hope that tanks go back to being super overpowered. I think it was a lot of fun. It took a lot of stress out of things for people, and it made things easier on the healers. So I don't know why they moved away from that. I think at the very highest end of the ladder, people were running some weird tank groups, but the vast majority of players were having a blast. So hopefully they move back in that direction. It's great to see these changes. Okay, now for Frost. Permafrost grants a shield equal to 35% of damage dealt, was 30%. So a little bit of a survivability buff for Frost. I don't think that this is a problem. I look, Death Knight is very tanky in PvE. In PvP, it is made out of paper. It's very squishy. And in PvE, it is one of the tankiest specs in the game. Now, Frost should have a bit more, I guess, a bit more padding than Unholy, because Unholy can do a lot of its damage from range. Unholy can step out of a swirl and still be maintaining uptime and hitting the boss or hitting the ads. So Frost getting a little bit of a buff. I mean, it's not much, but it's something. I do think that now with the changes with Unholy, Frost should feel a bit tankier. So it's good to see them get buffs. I'm surprised that there are PvE buffs to Death Knight survivability, but we'll take it. Now for Unholy, this is where a large portion of the changes comes in. So I'm going to read for you the developer's notes first. With Curse of Ulatek, we're aiming to smooth the gap between cooldown and non-cooldown throughput. Additionally, we're taking a look at the current summon density of Unholy Death Knight. For its rework in Midnight, Unholy Death Knight was reimagined as a summoner of the Scourge, and we're very happy with how it landed. I'm happy too. They nailed this fantasy. However, combined with the previous summoning powers from Rider of the Apocalypse hero talent tree, the amount of summons are exceeding the numbers we're comfortable with. It is paramount for us to provide a clear game space for our players, and we felt there was no design space left for us to give more summoning powers without ignoring this core principle. Okay, so I'm going to translate this part a little bit, okay? So they have moved from Unholy being a hybrid disease and summoner spec to mostly a summoner spec with some disease interaction, which I've loved. A lot of people have loved it. People have responded really well to these changes. It's very flavorful. It's very interesting. Things are kind of tied in. Maybe the diseases portion aren't quite where people want it to be. I know a lot of people don't want to play the disease talents, but where they've sort of landed is that between the riders that you're summoning and all of the ghouls that you summon, there's not a lot of room for them to add new undead, add new summons, add new things, right? Because if we look at something like Demonology Warlock, they have a whole lot of different pets that they can summon, right? They have the demon dogs, they have the wild imps, the upgraded wild imps, their actual pet, they have a pit lord coming through portals, right? So they have a lot of things that they can summon. And so they're not able to, expand on the design space with how many pets that we're currently summoning, because one of our hero talent trees already summons a bunch of pets as well. So they're limiting. I'm giving a lot of context here because I want people to understand that they're not getting rid of a lot of pets for us or anything like that. They want to be creative. They want to try and give us new summons. They want to try and do new things with our summons. And in order to do that, they have to slow it down with how many things are appearing on your screen a little bit. Okay, so now that we understand what their intention is, let's look at some of the changes that they've added. So Reanimation has been renamed to Lord of the Dead, and its secondary effect has been redesigned. When you control 3 Magus of the Dead, sacrifice them to summon their Lord of the Dead for 15 seconds, casting frost bolts that chain between 2 enemies. Magus with higher remaining duration grant increased power. Okay, I'm going to show you, I'll put up a little video of what these guys look like, or a little picture of what these guys look like, because the visual is important, right? How this works is whenever you have 3 Magus of the Dead, right? And remember, whenever you cast Putrefy, you automatically get a Magus of the Dead. So whenever you have 3 of them, they sort of Power Ranger morph into a upgraded Magus, and that upgraded Magus is a Lich, which is so cool. I mean, if you had told me back when I started playing in Wrath, hey, you're eventually going to be able to summon a bunch of liches under your control. I would have been so excited. It's so cool. It's so cool. So whenever you get a bunch of Magus of the Dead, they can upgrade and turn into this Lord of the Dead, this Lich, and it will cast frost bolts that chain between enemies. And it sort of looks like, I'll show you when we go into the visual section, I'll show you exactly what that sort of chain looks like. But there's a bit of cleave with these guys as well. That's cool. Now, your Apex talent Forbidden Knowledge has been updated. Magus of the Dead no longer grants stacking damage to Necrotic Coil and Graveyard. The effectiveness of Putrefy activated by Dread Plague has been increased to 100%. So what this is doing is this is effectively, with Magus of the Dead, I mean, turning into Lord of the Dead, right? They have to change some of the modifiers here. Necrotic Coil and Graveyard, this is a nerf to them, but you're going to see in a second why it sort of balances out. Now, the effectiveness of Putrefy activated by Dread Plague has been increased to 100%, was 60%, so this is going to be really important to make sure that you are maintaining your Festering Scythe and make sure that you are, really getting as many ticks of that Dread Plague as you can, because they are now going to be summoning sort of fully amped Putrefies, which is fantastic. Now, Soul Reaper has been updated. No longer consumes charges of Putrefy to cast, now consumes up to 3 lesser ghoul stacks to summon them instantly. All right, we're going to talk about this one for a second here. So this is a great change. I know you might be thinking, I know you're like, Skull, what do you mean that Soul Reaper no longer sends out my Putrefies? Relax, it's okay. This made for some, if you've been doing the raid and Mythic and any of that, you may have realized that Soul Reaper sending Putrefy sort of led to some weird interactions where you were in execute range, but you were holding your Soul Reaper for Dark Transformation because you needed it to send the Putrefy and you wanted the Putrefy to be amped up by Dark Transformation. It was leading to some degenerate gameplay. It was just, it didn't feel smooth, right? Putrefy should feel like a button that you, oh, I've got this, I want to send it. It's a great button. It feels good to press. And you really weren't pressing it all that much. Soul Reaper was doing it for you. This is a nice change. But the second part of this, so we've eliminated some degenerate gameplay. I think this is great. Now the second part of this is really nice because a lot of people complained that they said when this change happened, they were like, I lost Apocalypse. That sucks. I lost a button that I got to press. It did a bunch of damage and it summoned a bunch of ghouls. It was really cool. They're kind of giving you that back a little bit. I mean, it's every time that you press your Soul Reaper, you're now going to summon 3 ghouls instantly. So it's, it's not the full Apocalypse, but we're getting closer. They're bringing back, they're really listening to the Death Knight community with these changes and as they're sort of iterating on it. So I really do appreciate that. Now, let's move on. Unholy Aura has been updated. Magus of the Dead now grant the haste buff on spawn for 15 seconds. This is great. They're just going to give you the haste buff right away. I mean, if they turn into the Lord of the Dead, you're still going to have that haste buff from when they spawned. It's great. Some of this stuff has to be, some of it's kind of quality of life, right? Because there's a new interaction, you have a new summon. They're sort of smoothing things out here. Now, Army of the Dead has been updated. Summon or empower lesser ghouls to form an unholy army of 8 for 30 seconds. While active, you command your army through Scourge Strike, executing orders based on nearby enemies instead of summoning lesser ghouls. Okay. Let me read these and then I'm going to explain this because it might be a little confusing at first. Now, Death Order. Lesser ghouls strike with you, dealing shadow damage to your target. Epidemic Order. Lesser ghouls erupt in viscera, dealing shadow damage to nearby enemies. Deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. So this is sort of what they were talking about when they were saying that they're giving us a new summon, right? They're giving us something new, this Lord of the Dead, this Lich. But they're also sort of limiting a little bit how many things are appearing on your screen during your cooldown windows, so it's not overbearing, right? They have a little bit more design space to play around with. Now, how does this work? So during Army of the Dead, you are going to summon your ghouls, and whenever you press Scourge Strike, your ghouls are going to leap to that target and attack it, and they're going to do shadow damage. You go to another target and you press Scourge Strike, they're going to leap to that target and hit it. If you press Epidemic, they're going to erupt in AoE damage. Now, this is really great for a couple reasons. If you guys have done Mythic Chimeras, you have run into the issue of during your cooldown windows, when you have to swap to adds, it can be a little tough because your ghouls spawn and they only live for a short amount of time. So if you have to swap, by the time that they get to the target, they die and you have to resummon them. So they spend a lot of time walking and you lose a lot of uptime. This is going to be really, really convenient for target swapping because whenever you press Scourge Strike, you are going to be sort of launching your ghouls in a leap at the target, and I'll show you guys exactly what that looks like in the visual section. But they're going to leap over to your target and hit them, which is really cool. They're going to be erupting in viscera, doing AoE damage when you press it. So this, I really like this change. It's going to be great for PvP, for getting kited. When a mage blinks away and your pets are just sort of waddling after them, it's going to be really good during your cooldowns for them to be able to jump. It sort of works a little bit like a hunter kill command, if you played Beast Mastery Hunter or Survival Hunter. So it's a great change, and like they said, it gives them a little bit of extra design space to play around with new summons, and I think that's great. Menacing Magus now has an additional effect. Your Lord of the Dead Frostbolts can now chain to 3 additional enemies. So this, it's kind of a cool, some people like it, some people don't like the visual. I'll show you guys what it looks like in a little bit, but your Lord of the Dead, when he casts Frostbolt, it sort of bounces between enemies a little bit and does some AoE, so it's some extra cleave with him. I will say my only fear with the Lord of the Dead and Blizzard, if you probably not watching my videos, who knows. My only fear with Lord of the Dead is I would really like it to be tuned in a way that we are not, I don't want to track how many Magus I have and sort of be holding stuff for my cooldown windows with Magus to get the Lord of the Deads. I really think that might end up being degenerate gameplay. I hope that it's tuned in a way that like we get them and it's great as sort of a proc damage. I think if we end up thinking too much about these guys, it might be a little annoying. So we'll see. We'll see how it's tuned. I haven't quite done a lot of instances yet on the PTR, so I'll report back. Now, lesser ghoul damage increased by 10%. Right, this makes sense because during your Army of the Dead, you're not going to be summoning any extra with your Scourge Strikes, so they have to buff the damage. Army of the Dead, lesser ghoul damage reduced by 20%. So they are taking away some of the damage in your cooldown windows so that they can buff other portions of the damage. Like Necrotic Coil and Graveyard, damage was increased. This is to balance out, I know we talked about it a second ago, this is to balance out the Magus of the Dead no longer granting stacking damage to Necrotic Coil and Graveyard. So they're sort of balancing that out. Okay, so don't freak out. Um, Commander of the Dead now causes Dark Transformation to increase the damage of your summoned creatures by 10%, 20% for 30 seconds, was 15 and 30. So again, they're taking some damage out of our cooldown windows, which is totally fine. No one freak out that we're getting nerfed or anything, because we went through this at the start of the expansion, right? Unholy got some nerfs, and I was like, guys, it's gonna be okay. Unholy's gonna be just fine. And Unholy was fantastic in Raid, and it's one of the best in Mythic Plus. Don't freak out. Give me a little bit of trust. There's a bit of redistribution of damage here, but this is overall good. We want to be powerful in our cooldown windows, but we don't want to be only powerful in our cooldown windows. We need to be balanced in order to feel like a complete specialization. Now, Ruptured Viscera now deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. This makes sense. They're adding epidemic orders. Players other than the Death Knight can now only see up to 3 lesser ghouls at a time. They're just sort of optimizing, right? No one needs to see all of our summons. It's probably annoying, and probably causes a bit of maybe lag, right? So the only thing that I wonder about this is right now, if anyone knows and anyone's played PvP lately, Mistweavers are sort of able to run a spinning crane kick build where they just automatically beat Unholy Death Knight because they're able to sort of heal based on all of their pets. So when you press your cooldowns right now as a Unholy Death Knight, the Mistweaver's health actually goes up. I wonder if this is going to change that at all. I hope it is, because that's been a nightmare. Okay, Permafrost grants a shield equal to 35% damage dealt, was 30%. Again, I still think that Frost needs a little bit more defensive love than Unholy does. Simply for the fact that it's sort of a little riskier by being a true all-in melee. Okay, so those are the Unholy changes. The Frost changes, I'm sure we're gonna get more. Frost players, don't worry. We have many tuning passes to go. We have many patch notes to go before the release. And to my Blood friends, guys, I'm still banking on more Blood changes. It's great to see Blood get buffed. I really think tanks should be overpowered again, but we'll see what they do. Now, let's take a look at the tier sets. For the tier sets, Blood, your 2 set, is your attack speed is increased by 15%, and Crimson Scourge's chance to occur is increased by an additional 5%. And your 4 set bonus is Crimson Scourge increases the damage of your next Death and Decay by 100% and grants 5% critical strike chance for 8 seconds when consumed. It isn't, the attack speed is nice. It's not super, I'm going to be honest, it's not grabbing me. It'll be nice for Mythic Plus, right? Because you use Death and Decay a lot more in Mythic Plus, and Blood tends to be raid oriented rather than Mythic Plus oriented. So it is nice that they're trying to buff some of that. I think with these changes as well, right? Some of the things like the damage dealt by Blood Plague, right? Giving them sort of scaling damage buffs helps them in Mythic Plus. But really, it doesn't quite grab me. It's not bad. I mean, but it's not as interesting as I would expect. Now, Frost, the 2 set bonus, each time Remorseless Winter damages at least 1 enemy, gain Freezing Tempest, which grants 2% attack speed and 4% increased Icy Death Torrent damage for 5 seconds, stacking. Your 4 set is Remorseless Winter deals damage 25% more frequently, and Freezing Tempest lasts 5 seconds longer. So with them increasing your attack speed and the Icy Death Torrent damage, this, I mean, it's too early to tell. We have a lot of tuning to go, but this sort of leads me to believe that they might want to move it in more of a dual wield direction. As far as it goes, I always like to talk about PvP a little bit for Frost and Unholy. This sucks in PvP. um, it it's not where maybe we run two set. It's okay. I mean, this could be interesting in Mythic Plus, which is primarily what it's designed around. But we'll have to see how the rest of the frost tuning goes. There wasn't a lot of frost tuning, so I think it's a little too early to comment too much on the frost set. Now, for Unholy, your Magus of the Dead and Lord of the Dead cast a more powerful Necrotic Bolt instead of Frostbolt, and Withering Grasp instead of Shadow Bolt. So basically, your Lord of the Dead is just going to cast a more powerful ability. It's the Necrotic Bolt that we know and love. Pretty cool. Your 4 set, your Necrotic Bolt's damage is increased by 130%. Withering Grasp's damage is increased by 130% against enemies below 35% health. So this is nice because it gives you a little bit extra execute pressure. I don't know quite how hard these guys hit yet. Like I said, I haven't played around too much with instance content yet. So I'm going to have to see exactly, how substantial that is, right? We don't quite know. Is that a massive buff? Is that not? But it's going to be neat that they have an upgraded cast. I mean, so when they pop up, I'm guessing that they are going to be doing a good bit more damage. So it's cool. I'm excited to see more summons that they add and for them to keep iterating on the types of summons that we get. I love the direction they're going with Unholy. Cannot glaze them enough. For PvE at least, they have killed it. Now, before we talk about the visual stuff, I do just want to talk about PvP for a second. So, PvP, there were some changes made. Okay, and we're gonna have to scroll all the way down for player versus player, right? For those of you that don't know, maybe you're new to the channel. PvP is my I love PvP in this game. It feels like an engaging chess match. It's with the cooldown trading and predicting the enemy's move. There's nothing like it. As many complaints as people have about PvP in this game, there's no other MMO that I have found that does it quite like World of Warcraft does. And I've loved it for years. So Death Knight, for those of you not aware, let me give a little bit of context. For those of you not aware, Death Knight has an interesting role in PvP because it is largely sort of meant to be an anti-caster melee, right? You have anti-magic shell, you have ranged slows and snares, you have grips, like you have ranged kick, so you're sort of meant to be this anti-caster melee, which is great. Fuck the casters, right? So that's all well and good, but over the years, Death Knight has been nerfed defensively quite a bit. So Death Knight ends up in a position where it's decent into casters. It can be kind of annoying to deal with, honestly, sometimes for casters, but it is incredibly free to kill as any physical damage class. If you are a Beast Mastery Hunter, a Windwalker Monk, a Warrior, Survival Hunter, Marksman Hunter, Rogue, anything with physical damage, like Outlaw Rogue, anything with physical damage, you are just going to cut through Death Knight like butter, and it's brutal. It's brutal to watch. So Death Knight's role in PvP has typically been to slow down the game. It's been to Chains of Ice the enemies, right? You keep Chains of Ice on the enemy players, and you sort of peel for your teammates by, say there's a warrior chasing your warlock friend. Well, you can grip that warrior off of your warlock and Chains of Ice him. So you're peeling for the warlock gets to get some casts off, and it feels really good that way. Now, how this is sort of developed over the years has, because of Death Knight being, it is immortal in PvE, it is very squishy to physical damage in PvP. So instead of going for your warlock friend, the warrior might go after you now. And when this happens, your toolkit is not really designed for that, right? You're designed to slow down the game, peel for your teammates. And when they go you and they're able to sort of cut through you, it creates a bit of a challenge with how your toolkit is designed. So a lot of Death Knight's major defense into these physical classes has been Chains of Ice. If a warrior is coming after you, they have a 50% slow. You have a ranged 70% slow. So what do? You throw a 70% slow on the warrior, and you sort of keep at a distance during his cooldowns. You sort of maintain your distance, and then you attack when you have cooldowns. So they have made, in 12.1, they have sort of announced some PvP changes to the way that they are addressing slows. And I really want to talk about this because it is going to hurt Death Knight much more than it is going to hurt other classes. So what they have done is they have standardized slows. So they've nerfed slows across the board. If you have a 70% snare, 70% slow, they're going to reduce it to a 50%. If you have a 50% slow, they're going to reduce it to a 30%, and so on. And so this, at a glance, appears like a good decision because people don't want to move around at like a snail's pace all game. It's not fun. Of course they don't. But it affects different classes differently. Because while they have reduced the slows, there's no reduction to mobility. Right? So if I am a Devourer Demon Hunter, which I also play, I have 3 shift charges. I can shift 3 times across the map and get away. With slows being reduced, I'm celebrating, right? Because they nerfed the slows, but they didn't touch my mobility. There's no way that a warrior is getting on me. Now, if I'm something like a Death Knight, where my primary defense is keeping the melee slowed and away from me, I am terrified. So what they've done is they've gone through and they've intended to nerf this. Snares that are auto-applied during normal combat rotations, with some of the activated reductions retaining their strength. So what this means is they intended to nerf slows that were automatically applied while retaining ones that were applied manually, right? So if I press the Hunter's, I believe it's called Daze, right? And I slow somebody and I press that button, that should maintain its strength. But if I have a pet that is just automatically slowing somebody, that needs to be nerfed a little bit because automatic slows are annoying. So that was their intention. Now, the way that they went through this and the way that they did this did not follow through on that intention. For example, Death Knight's Chains of Ice was slowed from 70% to 50%. This is not an auto-applied during normal combat rotation. This is an activated reduction. So it was still targeted regardless of their intention. And the main issue that I see here is things like Windwalker slow, Warrior slow, were not. So Death Knight is going to have the same slow that the things that kill it have. So chainsing a warrior, chainsing a Windwalker, and maintaining your distance is no longer going to be quite as effective. This is a significant, I cannot overstate this enough, significant nerf to Death Knight survivability in PvP. I hope that we get some changes. I hope that we get some sort of rework, because I would love it if they changed Death Knight to make it a bit, they got rid of some of the slows, right? They got rid of some of the annoying parts of DK's kit, and they went and they buffed its survivability so it could stay in the fight instead of running away. I think that that would be really fun, really engaging for all parties. But as it stands right now, I mean, slowing the enemies so they're not CCing your healer was one of your advantages. Slowing the enemies so they weren't hitting you was one of your advantages. Slowing the enemies so you can get your goes off as a Frost Death Knight was one of your advantages, and they've really hit this hard. So again, they did not seem to nerf mobility or slows equally. Some specs were completely ignored. It's strange. Hopefully there's more changes coming for PvP. I'm sure there is, but I really would plead with the developers that Death Knight is going to need some serious physical mitigation after this. Okay. So I've talked enough about that. Let's move on to some of the visuals. Now, I've not really done this before in my other videos where I've gone through and talked about the tier sets, but they're really cool. And I like the fantasy. I like the aesthetics in the game. So I'm going to have a little section. Feel free to skip through if you want. For Death Knight, this is the set for this season. And I think I have mixed reviews, but I think the design, the overall design is sick. It reminds me very much of a Draugr with the sort of skull face, ghostly face within the helmet with horns. I think that's a really cool, especially it gets me pumped up for Northrend because it looks like a very Northrendy, like you'd find a Vrykul, an undead Vrykul wearing this armor set, which I think is really cool. The shoulders, the glowing skulls inside of them, the effects on the skulls look great. I think all of those particle effects are really sick. I want to see Death Coil get an update to this this VFX, because this is really neat. Like, if this was the face of our Death Coil, I would not mind that one bit. I mean, it's very, 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 very nice. So I love the design of these sets. The only thing that I don't like is the coloring, really. I don't really like the colors as much. I mean, like, personally, I'm a big fan of blue, but like I would have loved the blue with like a black set or something like that. Or even like the white set if they had black smoke coming off of it and the skulls. A little bit of contrast. But it's overall, I think the set is really cool. So for those of you guys that are, into the Transmog collection, you've got some neat new sets to try out. All right. And last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the PTR for you guys, and I'm going to show you the visual of the new Lich. All right, guys, and here we go. I'm going to just show you the new version of the Lord of the Dead, the little Lich guy that you're going to summon. So, as I said earlier, whenever you use or you summon 3 Magus of the Dead, you are going to sort of merge them into this thing. So let's go ahead and get some Magus of the Dead going. They're going to die, and they're going to turn into this guy. And as you can see, he's pretty cool. I mean, it's one of the Liches, and when he attacks, you can see it's going to bounce through the targets with his frost bolts. Very, very cool. I've seen some people getting a lot of these guys at once. It's pretty sweet. So very happy with the new summon. Hopefully we can get some more summons, because Gary the Gargoyle is very outdated at this point. I would love some customization of the little lesser ghouls, our main ghoul, and hopefully that's coming. I'm really, really hoping with us returning to Northrend and they work on some new assets, right, for Northrend. Hopefully that's when we start to see some more pet customization coming in. But love the direction they're taking Unholy so far. I'm very excited for what's coming, guys. And if you stuck through the video, thank you for watching. And as always, suffer well.